Hey everyone, welcome back to our podcast. We actually have some really great news. Today we're going to be announcing our name. You probably already know our name because on our SoundCloud account it says what our name is, but today we'll be announcing it officially. Our name for our podcast is Politrix Podcast.
Yes.
Because there's lots of tricks in this political world. So we are, my name is Kerstyn, by the way, and I have my co-host
Maxine. Hey.
Christopher. Hello, hello, hello.
And we are going to get into a few topics today. So thank you, first of all, for all the great support and all the people who've listened to the first two episodes. We're really, really excited. You know, going into episode 3, we're like really riding on a high. Mm-hmm. How are you feeling, Maxine?
Great. I enjoy how my voice sounds.
Which is different, so right? Which is weird, right? Because you said you didn't like your voice. Mm-hmm. I don't want to say that word. I don't like listening to my voice. And for this, and listening to myself on this podcast with this microphone, I'm like, I need to carry this microphone with me. And like when I'm on the phone or I'm on a conference call, like I want this microphone to like record my voice because I just can't hear it any other way. How about you? What's the feedback been on your end?
I love my voice. Like I'm just, I'm so great. But no, I got feedback. You know, a lot of people enjoy my voice. I was just mentioning before we started recording, like I kind of like to talk and just hear myself. Like, wow, do I sound like that? Okay. So.
I mean, you have a video, kind of like a vlog, so you hear yourself pretty frequent. Like you do this already. We're like new to this. You're like true to this.
Yeah, a little bit. You know, but when you're walking through the streets of Brooklyn, you kind of don't get the best sound quality for your own voice in a way. You get a little bit of everything else more than your voice.
That's true.
Yeah, for me, I had a few people reach out that said they aren't normally engaged politically, and they were really entertained the entire time. They stayed engaged, and it was just like, to me, it was very gratifying to hear people say like, wow, I learned a lot, or I wouldn't have thought of it that way, or to hear the two different points of view. So I'm excited.
Same here.
We're doing big things.
Oh, I'm so excited.
In the community.
Yes,
and
definitely.
honestly, that's what we wanted to do. Like, we want to talk for people of color, right? Black and brown people, and also, you know, Caucasian people as well. I mean, it's for everyone. It's not really for a specific group, but we are speaking from that point of view. So everyone should listen. You know, you can get a great, lesson and just get to know, some of the topics and things that are important to us and what we should be talking about.
Yeah, that's definitely important. When I did the Vice debate with the black conservatives versus the black liberals, a lot of people in the feedback section were saying they've never heard both points of view. So that video is almost it's the first one they released is at 3 million. The second it's just past 2 million. So people
There's a new one though. There's a new one actually.
Yes, with the females. Shout out to my girl Diamond Gibson, who's in that one.
Well, listen, when is Diamond coming here? Because I've got to talk to her.
I bet you do, my girl Diamond.
No, I don't know which one.
The one with the braids.
Mm-hmm.
She said some stuff like that was so outrageous that I was just like, is she really talking from experience, or is she just like been like planted some?
Drank the Kool-Aid.
She must have drank the Kool-Aid.
No, she's true to this. You just meet her father, Derek. Shout out to Derek.
Her father is also a conservative
Since birth.
Wow.
Very good. He goes through Manhattan. There's videos of him on YouTube. He goes through Manhattan with the Trump 2020 flag waving.
Wow.
And people will be talking to him, and some people be cursing at him and everything else. But he's like, he's a street dude, man. So when people get in his face, he gets right back at him.
She's kind of like, she's sassy. Like she has.
Her and her sister both.
Oh, okay. So that like the whole family. Like, I mean, for the listeners, I mean, we're talking about this Vice piece that was done on conservative women and I guess also liberal women, and they were just talking about like just different topics that affect women. And that Diamond, what's her name?
Diamond
Gibson. Okay, yeah, she's a firecracker.
It's funny you call her that. I call her my political firecracker. That's my nickname for her.
Yeah. So I would love to see her here, and I'd love to like really break down some of the stuff that she was saying, because I really was like confused. Confused.
We'll definitely get her on here for sure.
Great. So, let's get into the topics. Let's get into the first topic. This is kind of like a funny topic brought to us by Maxine. She was I think this is something that you saw and you wanted to express. Was there a reason why you were so interested in this particular? No, just thought it was funny.
Yeah.
Okay. So Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, also known as AOC, was accused of speaking with a Southern drawl during a speech on Friday, which was last Friday for you listeners, at Al Sharpton's National Action Network convention that just happened in New York. And we were wondering, like, do you think she was pandering to the crowd? I mean, because
which was predominantly black, right?
Which was predominantly black, and it got picked up right away once like the clip came out, and it became like a thing. Like she was trying to speak, because at first she was speaking. It kind of sounded like she was speaking. It was like
regularly. Mid-speech. Homegirl just switched.
But what do you think about that? Is that an issue?
Yeah, definitely. It's pandering, and politicians have been guilty of in the past. Hillary's done it. Joe Biden's done it with, they're going to put you back in chains. And he was talking to a majority black audience when he did it, Joe Biden. And they were in Virginia, which was a lot of history with slavery in Virginia. So he was bringing up putting people back in slaves. Like, come on, man. And of course, like she just mentioned, Obama has done it as well in the past. He's done the Al Green, some little Al Green for you, know. So it's just, I see right through it. So when you do it and she was bad at it. That's the thing. At least those three people I just mentioned, they were career politicians with it, where you had to catch it. AOC was just like, what the heck are you doing? And it's just like, she's a bad actress, but she's a bad politician, but it goes hand in hand. So, yeah, definitely it's a problem. The black community needs to be aware when politicians do that, and they're just doing it just because they think you're, whatever accent they're speaking with, they just think that's what you are. So that's a problem. You can't do that with the black community, because we're a lot.
But she's not running for anything. What does she get from doing that?
She represents the Bronx, which is like
not the South,
a part of the Bronx.
Yeah, right. Bronx and Queens.
Yeah,
so what's the issue?
It was just uncomfortable. Like I don't know the true issue, but it was just like weird. Like, like that's what struck it for me. It was just like, why did she just switch mid sentence? Mid speech, she even her body language. Did you guys see?
Oh my god! Of course, it's hard to watch. Made my skin crawl.
There's nothing wrong with a little bit. There's nothing wrong with some working class being a bartender.
Being a bartender. Yeah, come on, being a trash man, and there's nothing wrong with that. No, there's nothing wrong with that. But it was pandering.
I felt like it was kind of condescending a little bit.
Okay.
I don't know. Like, why are you assuming the people in the crowd
need to be spoken to like that?
But have those kind of jobs? Like, I don't know.
Okay, so let me ask you. So you work corporate, right? So, have you ever had like the Caucasian girl the homegirl Caucasian girl that's like, hey girl, how are you, what's up? No. That uses slang? You've never had that? I have that all the time.
I have that with white women who've hit on me. And they come speaking that slang, and
what do they say to you?
No, they're like, hey, what's up? And they're one, not all white females are, whatever. I'm not trying to put an umbrella on anybody.
Absolutely not.
But sometimes they have like the braided hair and have like a gold chain with the name on it, and they just be, oh yeah. And then when they hear me talk, you should see the reaction, because they're like, whoa. You're wrong one. You're one of them. So it's like, so it's just an awkward situation.
So what's the problem?
So I think the thing with AOC and why it's a problem is this consistent theme of her trying too hard. Like, a lot of people feel like she came in, she has this kind of celebrity status now because she's the youngest woman. I think, is she the youngest person ever? I know she's definitely the youngest woman ever to be in the House of Representatives. So it was like a big deal. She was like tokenized by the Democratic Party. She's in the front of everything. Do you guys notice that?
Oh yeah, she's a model.
So she got a little bit of fame with it, and then a lot of people just feel like she ran with it and she's trying too hard at everything. You know what I'm saying? So this speech was just another form of AIC doing too much.
Yeah, you're right. That's why I call it Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
And I don't like, and it's kind of, for me, it's frustrating because I always got irritated with people who would were misogynist to Hillary or whatever, would focus on certain things and not really what the woman was trying to talk about or the policy. And I find myself doing that to AOC, but it's like she's getting in her own way with me because some of the things she does are just kind of annoying, and I'm not able to kind of get to what the woman is trying to do, which to me seems like a lot. She's already introduced legislation. Like, there's people who are sitting around in Congress not doing anything, just voting,
just collecting checks.
You know what I'm saying? And she's pretty intelligent for someone who doesn't have a political background. And she's able to hold her own. But sometimes she just kind of rubs you the wrong way, and I feel like it's because she's doing too much. And this is an example where, like, just take it easy, just come in, learn the ropes a little bit. I don't know. That's how I just think she needs to calm down a bit, tone it down a bit.
Yeah, she needs to.
Because honestly, she's from the Bronx. She's from New York City. Like, pandering to me is a problem when, some people are like, oh, there's a racist, like all this stuff.
She's not from the Bronx. She's from New York, not the Bronx. She says she's from the Bronx, but she's nearby.
From New York City, so she's had exposure to black and brown people. So it's not like she's pandering to a group that she doesn't relate to and doesn't know anything about. We know that's not true. But I just think she needs to chill.
Yeah.
Okay. What about the fact that so Omar was on the Late Show, and she was talking about the fact that they always tell women, wait your turn, or don't talk to, don't be aggressive. And isn't there something, and this kind of goes into my next, this is the second part of my first question. Do you think she's going to create real change? Because a lot of people are saying that, she's a loudmouth, she talks and stuff, but don't you think we need that kind of aggression? With the whole fact of her pandering, I don't know. I see everybody doing that. I sometimes do that. It's called code switching for us. Well, for people of color, it's called code switching. When we're talking to our friends, we're talking,
and you can do the corporate voice at work and stuff.
Yeah. Do you not do that?
And you know what? Wow.
Do you not do that?
Now that you've said that, oh wow, this is so messed up. I tell people I can put on Becky's voice at work, and
you have to.
But I actually use that term, and I'll say I do the Becky's voice. You're right. I think.
Me personally, I don't code switch.
Well, you don't. Yeah.
No. So it would sound like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I sound like a bad actor.
Chris just speaks in one voice. You have the Barack Obama voice, so you know that.
No, trust me, I've heard it.
Okay, so you have that kind of serious, person voice.
Thanks, Dad.
Yeah, well, but for people of color, and especially I work in the music business, and since I was a young person, I've always been called speaking like a white girl or whatever, and I used to always get so annoyed by that. And what annoyed me about that was the fact that I felt like they were saying that black people were not educated, that we couldn't speak correctly.
I've dealt with that.
Do you know what I mean? So it's because you enunciate every single syllable, you're trying to be white. Because typically, black people don't enunciate our syllables. We just have to speak in slang. That's the proper way to be black. And it's come on. And now we see that that's not, there's so many ways to speak. And not that there's anything wrong with speaking in slang, but, I grew up where everything I said, my mom corrected me. Every time I said a word that was incorrect, she was like, isn't, please, pronunciate it right. That was the way that we, you know what I mean? And that's what we do, so that's why I speak correctly. However, is it wrong to do different slangs and talk to different people?
If it's genuine, yeah. If she starts speaking like the girl from the Bronx, and she sounds like a Latina from the Bronx, I'll be like, okay, she's doing her J-Lo, her Cardi B, boom, boom, here it is,
That's what I was going to say. I don't think the issue is that, she's loud and proud and aggressive and whatever. It's just consistency. You throw people off when you're not consistent, and pandering is an inconsistency because it comes out of nowhere, and you're just you're only doing this around particular groups. So that's why we have a problem with it. So I don't like her approach and her, shaking things up, which is what she's doing. I don't think it's a problem. It's just these weird things she does that, to me, it's too much sometimes. Okay. To answer your question, yes, I do think that she can make some real change because she's bringing this millennial perspective that I think is really important. And one of the things that she's vowed to do is the transparency, right? I love that. She's constantly I know she has a large following, and she brings them in, and she's constantly recording, and she's constantly speaking about what just happened and breaking it down for people. So I think that she is going to force the political system to be more transparent and to reach this new age of millennial innovative thinking and whatever. I mean, she introduced the Green New Deal. I think she co-wrote it or co-sponsored it with another representative. I can't remember his name. And so many people are on board with it already. So I think she is going to make change. I do. I just think she's getting in her own way, and she's going to piss a lot of people off if she doesn't find her identity and her essence and just stick with it and own it and embrace it.
I don't think she has a political essence, though. I think she's a puppet. I think that she was put in place by certain people, and
who? Do you know she got knocked out the 10-term incumbent?
Oh, yeah.
Dude, that guy, look, he didn't know what was coming. He was he was living in Virginia, living his life.
He's a rhino.
He is like he's like the old school, like, and there's a lot of them in New York.
Most of the establishment,
New York is run by him.
Most of the establishment doesn't like her, so who put her in place?
No, the people. What do you mean the people?
No, you're talking
about no. You got if you look at a video by Mr. Reagan, which I recommend looking, and he does a video entitled, and I remember it's entitled, but type in Mr. Reagan, Alexandria AOC, you'll see the video pop up. He explains her connections to the Young Turks, the TV show with Cenk Uygur. Her and Cenk Uygur are very close. Her brother, family members, I can't say her brother, but are also attached to certain members of the Young Turks. And they were working with her years before she ran. They knew her name. They were working with her. So don't think this
That sounds like a conspiracy.
I mean, it does sound like a conspiracy, but if you do the research, it's there. And you see how the fact she came out of nowhere. You don't come out of politics just out of nowhere. No, certain people, even on your own party, won't let you do that. So when you're doing that, usually it's because you got pulled or pushed from somewhere. And it always usually connects to George Soros when you look at the deep picture. He's always in the picture. So definitely.
Here we go with the conservative. All these. It's always some kind of someone's come to put us and change us, and
bring socialism in this country. That's what it is. The Trojan horse.
Listen, if I'm gonna look into this whole connection. I love the Young Turks, by the way. Shout out to them, but. I don't think she's a political.
I don't know what the Young Turks is.
It's an alternative news show for
liberals. It's really good.
Oh,
you're gonna like
I used to watch it a lot before I became a conservative.
Now he's a conservative. Like, he woke up one morning and he's now a conservative, spewing,
turned his nonsense off,
telling us about Soros and who's
yes. But Mr. Reagan is the guy's name. I recommend looking at his video. He breaks it down way better than I can. But I watched it a couple times. But
he's also another conspiracist, probably.
He does alternative news. Where conspiracy was made by the CIA back in the 70s to black people out like me who want to kick truth, they could look deeper into it, and they just want to label us to shut us up. So even though we're conspiracy theorists, is to me like a conspiracy.
So you don't feel like she's going to AOC is going to do anything?
No, I think she's going to bring change, positive change for the conservative, for Republicans. She's going she keeps talking, and I think she's going to also, she's changing the Democratic Party. Like, if the Democratic Party doesn't, like, better do something, because they're going to be socialists soon. And if you look at Omar, what's her name, Elab, Rashida Tlaib, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, all this new young, all they see is diversity, and they're young.
Right.
But what are these young, diverse people? What are they about? Like, really? I mean, look into what they're talking about. That Omar chick
Progressive doesn't mean socialist, though.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't always, but it has in the past sometimes. So
coming from the political party that is in bed with Putin, like, come on, like, we're all of a sudden, like,
supposedly there's no evidence to that.
I mean, he had meetings with Putin, and we don't know what he was talking about.
Your next topic?
So we don't know. Yeah, but I want to just say, for me, I do feel like I like that she's challenging the establishment, whether she's a political, plant.
I'm a person who always enjoys the establishment getting challenged.
That's what I'm saying. So that's why it's important. And then you also, Maxine, you were saying, like, how you want to see more, like, more progress, and you want to see some, what was the word you used? Transparency, right?
Transparency,
and you said, and that's what she's about. Like, she was the first person that, and I thought that was so cool, because not only she wins, right, and she uses social media to, like, take us through the process.
Social media, right? Social media.
Yeah, Barack Obama started that. Yeah.
Who mastered it?
Barack Obama. He started. He won twice.
Trump,
he won twice.
But not
he
just
started social media. Totally.
Mainstream media was on Obama's side.
He changed the way people ran. Like, before that, nobody used social media. Obviously, it wasn't there. Not a lot of it existed.
I think what he's trying to get at is the way Trump talks about what they're doing.
Exactly. He speaks directly to his voters.
Like once Obama was in office, were we always getting updates?
Okay.
Nope.
You know what I mean?
Nope.
Girl, you starting to become a little bit. You showing a little.
No.
I like it.
But Trump's lying all the time. He's like, oh, we just did this today, and I'm like, no, you didn't.
No, you did
Just because
not.
he said, no, hold up. I'm not saying that Trump's transparency is accurate. Just because he tweets out that they whatever did something, it doesn't mean they really did anything.
Trump's done a lot.
I'm just saying Trump is using social media to try to be transparent to his base. We can argue about the accuracy of that. He is lying most of the time.
He's telling the truth most of the time. That's what I feel. But
He's in bed with the Russians. And speaking of the Russians, so the Mueller report came out a couple weeks ago, and
we've been waiting.
Yeah, so we got the.
I've been waiting, but
but we got the summary of it, right? And we still are waiting for like the full report. And Democrats are upset, and they want to get the full report. But my question to you guys is, should Democrats move on and focus on 2020 and stop going after this? Because obviously they're not going to
get over it.
What do you think, Maxine?
Another unpopular opinion. Coming from me, we need to completely move on.
Yes.
We need to completely move on. And this is how I feel, okay? Trump got away with this. He just did, okay? I don't want... Trump, everybody around him is getting arrested, whatever. So,
22
so
of his people.
In my mind, there is no doubt that Trump did something wrong and something shady. But I think America got bamboozled, and Trump was really smart about how he did it to not expose himself. He's getting away with it. And it sucks. And I think we all have to just accept it and move on.
Yes.
Because if we focus way too much on this, we're gonna miss what we need to do to make sure he doesn't get elected in 2020, right? And the Democrats are, to me, kind of we kind of look like hypocrites a little bit, because this is similar to the Benghazi scandals with Hillary Clinton, and they did investigation after investigation, and we were like, you did your investigation, nothing came out of it, move on, you're spending all this money, you're spending all this time, and now we're basically wanting to do the same thing. I think we were all happy with Mueller, right? We were happy with his credibility, so I think that's what matters. Like we were happy with.
But who knows? I mean, it's another.
And they put out a 400.
He's a Republican too. Don't forget.
That's true. He put out a I just think with the amount of people involved, like at the Departments of Justice and FBI, like everybody is not a Trump person. So if they all have to assess this report and decide whether to indict, there just has to not be enough evidence, which is, to me, terrible, because the man obviously did something wrong.
I think if they...
What do you say to that? Because she made valuable points. Like, how do you explain 20 people from his cabinet, or that was in his campaign, are all going to jail or have some kind of some sort of
If you go to
scandal.
any former president and go deep in their campaign and look at everybody's history, you're going to put at least 22 people in jail every single time. It's just, and he's from New York, and you're talking about lawyers he's rolling with and stuff like that. Oh yeah, you're going to find something dirty in a New York lawyer's previous 30 years in the business, of course. It's just like, but they weren't finding anything that they were coming after Trump for. It was just the Russia connection. There was no Russian connection.
But some of them had the Russia connection.
Well, that's their business. It's a free country. They're not running for president, or they're not president at all. So
if they're his campaign manager, if they're his right-hand man,
and they should have a direct connection with Trump in that case, but there was none. It's like, I remember when it all started with the Trump-Russia dossier.
So his lawyer of 10 years sat there, Cohen, and spoke about Trump.
Cohen's a snitch. He's a lie. He's a snitch. He's a snitch and a lie.
Good word. He's a snitch.
No, he's a snitch and a lie.
What does a snitch do? They tell the truth about what's going on in the party.
Not always tell the truth. They just rat. If you're a rat, that's why you're a filthy little rat, because you just run your mouth when you're in a little bit of trouble because you're weak. And that's what I felt he was doing. Like, he was getting in trouble. He was facing jail time. And he's like, I'd rather him go to jail than me. So if I got to lie, and if you guys believe me, especially the media is like, grasping every little word I say, yeah, I'm going to say what you guys want to hear.
So why did he? So one day he woke up in the morning and was like, you know what? I just want to. I'm upset with Trump, and I'm going to tell on him, and I'm going to say all his picadillos.
When the hammer was dropping on his business, and he's going to get in trouble for it, and they knew that they were doing the only reason they were attacking him because they want the president. Of course. Well,
But
it's
I mean,
all fair.
So if we break down what he snitched on, I mean, he basically snitched on what is actually true.
No, it's not true.
Stormy Daniels, didn't they not pay Stormy Daniels?
No, Stormy Daniels that's nothing to do with Russia. That's nothing to do with Russia.
No. It has nothing to do with Russia. Stormy Daniels and the president had some kind of a affair, and they paid her off right before the election. They have a check that shows in 2017 he was still paying off Cohen. There's nothing in that. There's nothing, like, he's supposed to keep quiet about that. That's what he's not supposed to snitch about.
You can tell the woman got paid off. Like, it's still, like I said, where's the law being broke here? That wasn't campaign money. That was his own money.
No, it isn't. But why? Okay, why did he do it? Why did he pay?
Because he didn't want her going to the public, putting his business out there. He's a celebrity before he was president. So Trump,
and he wasn't using his money, by the way. He's paying back the money, so it wasn't his money. It was, the problem is that it was an improper use of funds.
Okay, so you're telling me you, without a doubt, do not think Trump is guilty of anything. I would have more respect for you.
Do I feel Trump does he have, every president though, almost every president in the past has done something that's, you can say they're guilty for. All the way to Bill Clinton get his knob slobbed and lying about to the American people about it. That's treasonous, technically.
Treasonous?
Yes, if you lied to American people about something you did, you're lying.
Oath. He wasn't under oath, though.
Yeah, but still, he did it all in faith.
But he also got impeached. He also went through the process.
And how many years did he serve after his impeachment? He still served 8 years as president of the United States.
Years. That was at the end of his term.
That was the end.
Yeah,
that was at the end.
Still,
that was like in 97.
He served his full term, though.
Ty here, real quick. Can I bring an outside?
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
Real quick, outside perspective. So I see where you guys coming from, Maxine and Kerstyn. As far as like, all right, you got everybody in your team obviously involved in something, and everybody's getting locked up. So you have to have some type of involvement, which I kind of agree with as well. But then when you look at like let's just say mafia or gang stuff, usually the guy who's at the top never really gets locked up. It's all his little minions below who was carrying a gun, who did the shot. You know what I mean? I know I'm going off of movie references, but it's sometimes as well true in like real life situations. So it's not to say that the guy at the top isn't involved, but I just feel like, for example, like how I'm sorry, I'm mixing up names right now, but how you're saying that Trump they didn't tie him anything. He didn't have a fingerprint. But he was the one who was saying like, oh yeah, go ahead. If you got that, go ahead, do it. Oh, if you got the connection, yeah. But by any means, go ahead and
That's right.
Do whatever. But his hands are not involved in the process.
They protect him. A lot of his people, like his top people, protected him. Everything you're saying, Ty, is absolutely right. That's in any kind of gang, any kind of mafia. It always happens that way.
And then another thing the last thing to say is the fact that you can't, even though other presidents were guilty or
nobody looked into it like this. Nobody's ever looked into the president's history or anything like this.
I mean, well, that's because nothing has been exposed like this.
I don't know, but Obama was spying on Obama before. Obama was spying on Trump before he got into office. If you look at that,
that's not true.
New York Times, which is a very leftist article.
Once again,
I mean, I don't think that has anything to do with him winning the presidency.
Doesn't mean the standard.
That this is where.
But nobody looked into it when it came out. The information came out. Nobody just dove into Obama and looked into it. They let it go because he was Obama. People did not like Trump, so they did extra.
What was he looking at Trump for? I don't have any context to that.
With Trump, he was he set up camera work inside of Trump Tower here in Manhattan, and so just to see if there was any connection with him in Russia. So he spied on him. Technically, that's what this whole Spygate thing that's going on right now is all about. Because they're saying you're not allowed to look into somebody who's running to be president and see if they're just, even though you're trying to say this, I'm just doing it because see if there's some connection with him in Russia, you still can't do that, period. So that's being controversial, popping up right now. And like I said, if people would have dove right into Obama like they're diving into Trump, I mean, come on, they started out this whole Trump thing with the Trump-Russia dossier, and they were saying he was in Russia peeing on little girls, and none of that was, absolutely all of that was a big lie. And this is how this started. And we're still talking about it to this day. It's like, come on, man. They actually have footage of R. Kelly doing it, and he's still walking around. So it's like you don't do it, say a lie about Trump, and then the lie is false. And now you got to keep on telling us lies and supposed to believe this, it's this whole Russia thing's all nonsense, because it just is. I mean, if you look at 2012,
but that disturbs me that you think like, you know, all presidents do this kind of stuff. I mean, the standards should be pretty high.
no, I'm saying I agree, the standard should be high, but if we're coming after Trump like this, we should come after every president like this. Why are we doing this one guy like this?
Because people don't feel as if he's unpredictable, and when you feel like somebody,
I don't
like,
trust him.
when you feel like you're on a if you're in a car and somebody's just swerving a little bit, like they're not looking like they're gonna crash, but you're not comfortable. That's just and not to say that you should be, not to say that all the other presidents, you know, was like, oh, we're gonna just coddle you and make sure everything is nice, and yeah, he's a little bit edgy, but you got to remember that that's a shift that people aren't used to. So of course you're naturally going to be like, oh, okay, you know, like, it's like you get on a normal roller coaster, a metal one is not as whippy as a wooden roller coaster. Right now, Trump is like a wooden roller coaster. That thing, he's just, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know if it's going to break at this turn.
But remember, we're supposed to be in World War III. Gays are supposed to be in jail and getting thrown off roofs. I mean, all stuff's supposed to be happening by now, but none of that's happened.
Liberals are not that.
I mean, that's just people's wild predictions.
Just so you know,
but that's not
liberals are not that.
But Trump has done a pretty good.
I think at the end of the day, people like Trump.
Some liberals.
Trump is very shady, and he had a lot to gain from being in a position where he can benefit himself and his family. And a lot of people felt he was going to do whatever he could to get that done. And we still don't know. It's not like he was this like public advocate who all his life cared about the people. And you just come out of nowhere. And I mean, he's a narcissist, obviously. So this is just another way to get his self-worth up there. But I think ultimately people feel that Trump did something shady. I in my gut know the man did something shady. But I also feel he's getting away with it.
As
and
all
we need to let it go.
Powerful men do.
We need to move on, because we need to really look about how this happened and prevent it from happening again. The amount of energy, time, money that we're putting into the investigations and all that. I mean, an investigation needed to happen, without a doubt. I'm happy it did. We have a report, 400 pages, that a lot of people, maybe the public can't, but a lot of other people are able to read into it. I think our own Congress people are allowed to read into it. 400 pages there. So there's enough there for us to go dig deep into that. I think they need to put that same energy into figuring out how do we prevent this from happening again, especially the social media infiltration, like all that stuff. We're in 2019. Do we have a plan yet to make sure that this doesn't happen again?
I know. Keep going, Democrats. Keep going.
I feel the same way as Maxine. I think that we need to move on. I think like just like you said, you couldn't say it any better. Like, it's, you know, he got away with something. Because obviously, if everybody around him goes to jail, obviously there's a problem. You know what I mean? There's something that's happening. And like Ty was saying, they're not going to take down the man. You know, at the end of the day, they're going to keep the president. There's a lot of things he's doing for the GOP. Well, I mean, there's a lot of things that they're doing for the GOP that, you know, the tax cuts and stuff that are favorable to the Republican Party. So at the end of the day, a lot of these Republicans can't stand him, but they are not going to open their mouth. They're just going to keep doing what they have to, and they want to keep their you know, because also let's also remember that the Supreme Court is you know, that they're closer and closer to becoming the most conservative Supreme Court. Like I pray for my
MAGA.
I pray for my girl. I mean, please put her in bubble wrap and protect that woman. You know, RBG.
Oh, RBG.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of hers, and I just I'm like, I always pray for her. I'm like, girl, just stay strong. But that's the problem. Like, so remember, they have a lot to gain, you know, and this is why we're here talking about these issues, because what we're trying to do is remind you guys, the election in 2020 is going to be so important. It's like it's dire. Like, we can't let them keep putting in their federal judges, because that's what they're doing. They're putting all their Republican conservative judges in the federal courts, and you know, they have the tax cuts that is going to basically bring back another recession. They're saying it's going to come anytime now, this summer, they're saying, or maybe even next year. So a lot of these things are going to start happening, and we have to pay attention. Like the numbers always show that whenever a Democrat is in office, the economy starts to do better. But when a Republican goes in office, he starts doing these things that change the economy, and then we go into a recession.
Not with Trump. He's doing a great job with the economy.
We'll see. In a year or so. We'll see.
No, he's doing good, man.
We'll see.
People wanted Trump to do horrible so they can point and say, "See, look what happened." Now he's doing a good job. It's like they're making up stuff to try to get him.
I'm just concerned with because ultimately the accusation is that Trump did this thing with Russia because Russia was going to help him get elected, right? So what were they going to use? What were the tools? What were the things that they were going to use to help him get elected?
I know how Trump got elected.
All those kind of things. So I want to know, we're in 2019, how do we prevent that again? That's what they're not answering for me.
Because they have no answer.
I mean, Trump's not going to be dumb enough to go back to Russia and be like, hey, you're going to do that again for 2020? Like, no. I know they're not going to do that.
But the thing, what did Russia do? Russia didn't. I told you how Trump won in the first podcast.
Facebook, they said they were like heavily.
They were all the fake bots. They were,
yeah. I don't believe anything Facebook says. Facebook throws me.
No, but you don't. You don't. But a lot of people
suspends my account for 30 days for taking pictures with people. That's what Facebook does.
Get out of here.
I'm dead serious. I took a picture of Gavin McInnes, and they said I was spreading hate speech. 30 days.
Someone had to report it.
Of course, but they reported a picture.
One of your followers reported it.
That had nothing to do with Facebook. That was one of your followers that were like, "Oh hell no."
But still, Facebook has to be the one to ban me though. So they can see a picture of me and say, "No, we're not going to ban this guy for a picture." Sorry, you're crazy.
That's weird. Really?
Facebook is against black conservatism.
Guess what?
Silicon Valley.
You know what's so funny? I think about these are like little things that I always think about. I'm like, you know what? Twitter is the resource of I want to say he's liberal. I think he's a liberal.
Who, Mark Zuckerberg?
No. Well, definitely Marcus. But it's so funny how like conservatives and Republicans use these platforms to like spew their like craziness, and it's like
propaganda.
Yeah, and then it's like, hello, like you guys are using the platforms of the liberals. Like, thank God for liberals, huh? Thank God for those crazy liberals in the Northeast,
Silicon Valley,
going to school.
No, liberals run Silicon Valley. They run the education system.
They're smart. They're just smart. At the end of the day, they're smart. I hate to say it, but Republicans, like, sometimes when I speak to Republicans, I'm like, wow, you're so smart. How could you be a Republican? It just doesn't even make sense. Like, I even look at you, I'm like, dude, is it, like, are you, like,
it's something financial.
No, it's fine.
It's selfish too. They're very selfish.
That's the thing that I think is why Chris is unique, right? Because people aren't saying like, oh, why are you you don't consider yourself a Republican, but let's just for the sake of argument, you're in with the Republican Party right now, and I think a lot of people are like, how can you do that? And it's because it takes a bit of privilege to be able to ignore the other elements of the Republican platform that harm and marginalize groups because, oh well, I don't really care because, like, for example, my stepfather, he's an Irish man, grew up in the suburbs of Pennsylvania, whatever, in a conservative family. At the end of the day, he says it's all financial. I'm gaining financially to vote Republican. Okay, but do you not care about all these other things that the Republican Party stands for? Whether it's taking away, women's right to choose, whether it's gay rights. It takes a bit of privilege for you to say, that's not my problem. So
that's a good point.
There's a lot of people in the Republican Party who are so like hard on these issues. But there's a whole portion of them as well. Like when you say, how are you like an executive at a company and you're voting Republican? Because, girl, it helps their bank account.
Of course, oh yeah.
No,
but don't forget, Amazon, Jeff Bezos, he's a lot of these, Buffett also, Warren Buffett, he's a Democrat.
Well, I work in banking, and there's a ton of Republicans.
No, obviously, yeah. I'm not saying obviously I think there's a bigger percentage of Republicans that are,
upper middle class, upper income.
Upper middle class.
Yeah, I would say that. But I'm just saying it's surprising to see, like, Amazon is the rich. He's like 10 times over a billionaire. Mm-hmm. Like, he's super rich. He's wealthier than everybody. And he identifies with the Democrats. He identifies with like liberals. He's gaining on all of on the system. He hasn't paid his company hasn't paid taxes in forever.
Of course. So
us, we pay taxes.
Exactly.
We have to the middle class, the poor class, whatever we're considered. We're the ones that have to pay we're paying our taxes, and you have people like Trump that hasn't paid taxes in 27 years. That's not fair.
That's knowing business. That's knowing how to handle your money.
No.
That's just part,
the fact that you say that and you're not listening to the fact that do you not think about that? You have to pay your taxes.
I know. Now. For now.
Right. For now.
One day.
Okay,
Maybe
one day
not.
you won't. But don't you think that that's unfair that you have to pay, but these rich people get away with not having to pay for it?
Not if you worked hard and you got to where you are from. You grind to where you get to the position you're at, and you get benefits from that position. I mean, it's like rich people getting free clothing when they go to events. It's like, well, why they get free clothes? There's people who are homeless. What are they getting free clothes? Because they're on TV where millions of people are watching, and they're marketing for that company. It's business. And I know sometimes that's hard to hear or it's very cold sounding, but it is what it is. Like, and I've done sales most of my life. Sales is a dog-eat-dog world. So I grew up in a dog-eat-dog world when it came to money. So now that I see guys who are, like I said, I told you before in a previous podcast, Trump is like the owner of a business. And everybody, all sales guys, be talking trash every month about who's the best. When he comes in that one time a year during Christmas with his third wife, and she's looking good, and he's working the whole entire, and he works the room, and you're like, dang, this guy can talk. You're like, that's why he can pull that and have.
He can talk. So. He's not even intelligent.
Trump is very intelligent.
No, he's not. Obama is very intelligent.
No, he's very well spoken. Very well spoken.
He's intelligent.
He's articulate.
Okay, he went to Columbia and he went to Harvard. And he was not only was he in Harvard Law School, he was also known as the big top guy that he was the first black editor of the Harvard Review, the Law Review. So
yeah, he's very book smart, very articulate, very well spoken.
That's someone that's a well spoken intellectual person.
But can you get the job?
Clinton was a scholar also. Clinton was an actual Rhodes Scholar. He went to
and a rapist.
He didn't. He's not a rapist.
Yeah, don't even Juanita Broderick.
Don't even put that out there.
Google Juanita Broderick.
He's not a rapist. My gosh.
Yeah, Hillary's even worse than him. He would confront the women.
Another intelligent woman. Listen, listen. Let me tell you something.
Book smart means you're just that. You're book smart. I met a lot of people who are smart dumb. I call them, where they can read a
so
read
you're
a
saying
book
Trump
and know
is
from
smart.
back to front, have no common sense.
Have you seen Trump's buildings that he has? They're like horrible. They're so ugly. All his buildings are so ugly. Honestly, I was just looking at the one that is the Hyatt on 42nd Street the other day. I was driving. I'm like, damn, this building is so unattractive, and it's so typical because they were even saying that.
I rode down the gold escalator the other day. The one he announced.
It's ugly, huh? It's just outdated.
No, it's just outdated. Yeah. No, I'm just kidding. It just needs to be like all old buildings need to be.
It's 80s New York right there, man. Like,
yeah, it was. But but I have to say, every single thing he's done has in business has literally been horrible.
This is the thing about like the whole conservative thing that gets to me. It is this whole privilege thing because I remember like when 2016. Election was happening, my stepfather was like, why aren't you voting for Trump? It doesn't make any sense. Financially you would benefit more from Trump. And at the time I'm like, hold up, like I'm thinking about all these other groups because I told you socially I'm all the way to the left, and I'm like, wow, so all these other groups that are at risk right now. I mean, there was transgender, gay, women, like you name it, they were at risk. And you're telling me that I have to just completely ignore that because I may
about yourself.
Worry about it's a very to me conservatism is a very selfish like ideology.
But let's not forget, Maxine,
because there's a weird the Republican Party is weird. You have these people who are stuck in their ideology, like the how have you personally benefited? Evangelicals that you have, and they really truly believe this stuff.
I was just gonna say that. That's gonna say how they're the religious party as well, but they're the ones that are the most. They're the unchristlike.
But did you get a higher or lower?
When you really think about it,
I mean, for me, it's like my mother was raised. Most people are gay woman. You know what I mean? Like she was in a foster care. And then she went into a permanent group home. And that woman, at the time she was married, but then she found out, she just figured out when she was about 40 years old that she's always been gay.
I didn't care. Compared to what I earned, in 2 weeks,
I'm just like, how can you just ignore these people that are in your life that matter to you?
Your mom is also
conservative. And then add up all the other checks and look what's my made. Well, that's when people say ignore.
So you did your numbers and you had made
I'm conservative. I believe now. I follow a lot of the ideology. But when I saw my check, I thought I got a raise. I'm saying I don't want to put my tax dollars in your abortion. That's my.
But most of the party
you believe in the right to choose.
Look. That's an extent. This is how conservatism is. There's an ideology. There's people that follow it like it's tooth and nail, like this is ride or die. There's usually evangelicals in the group or whatever, and there's people that just say, "Look, I like this ideology. I follow it. but I'm not going to follow it to like my death and grave. Like, I'm not saying women can't have abortions. Like, women can have abortions, but I guarantee if women had to pay out of their pocket for abortions, really pay what they have to pay for the doctor visit, the medicine, all that, they would be having less abortions because they would be like, I don't want to pay that. Now that it's pretty much pro bono, they're like, I'll get knocked up, whatever. I'll kill that baby next week.
Oh
Whatever.
my gosh.
That's not though.
I know, but it's pretty much.
That doesn't apply for all women, but I do understand what he's saying. Like, if it were like when the consequences are higher, no matter what the topic is, people are more responsible. People are more aware. When the something, oh, I'm gonna get locked up for this, or I'm gonna do this for this, or this can happen. Oh, you play the game completely different. But when you have, like, not saying abundance, but when you think in an abundance type of mentality, you just don't give a shit about whatever, whether it's water, whether it's food. If you feel like you just have complete
free range,
then you kind of most of us, and I'm not just saying on abortion, but just on any
life in general,
any level of life. Yes.
But I think abortions are down significantly. I know, like, teen pregnancy is, like, way down. These things are just it's not like.
I don't know, in the black community, 77% of babies are being born out of wedlock.
But, like, abortion rates are not high.
Well, New York, there's more babies getting aborted than born in New York City by women. Real quick little statistic. More babies are being aborted in a year than are being born.
We're going to look up that statistic. We're going to look it up, and by the end of this podcast, we're going to say something about that, because there's no way that's.
I believe when we come back with the data, it's going to show that abortion. I believe abortion has been consistently going down and down every single year in the United States. So the fact that the party wants to continue to make it a conversation, like, why are we addressing something that is dropping?
Because I'm still paying my money.
I understand, but it's dropping.
I know, but I mean, if I don't agree with it, I should be allowed to say I don't put my tax dollars in it. I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm just saying that I should have a choice. If you have freedom of choice, I should have a choice to say, do I want to put my money into that or not? And I choose not to, because in my ideology, I feel does not agree with aborting babies. So it's just fair is fair, I feel, and that's what the separation of church and state is all about.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't want to get into the abortion conversation, because I think it's a very nuanced conversation. But like what Maxine was saying, it seems like with Republicans and conservatives, it seems it's always like, I don't want to have to do that. I don't want to have to help someone else out. I don't want to have to feel like responsible to, my neighbor. And isn't that what Christ wanted for the people who are Christians or religious? Isn't that what God wants us to look after each other? It seems like the Republicans love to talk about how they're godlike, but on all the stuff that they want, it's like they want to shoot people, they want to have guns, it's violence.
Protect yourself.
What's that?
Protect yourself.
They're anti-gay.
They're
anti-LGBT.
They're anti-gay. If you're gay, they don't like you.
What's the Bible say about that?
The Bible says a lot of things. It's up to interpretation, but I also know that God did not want us to not like other people and disrespect other people and treat people horrible for being gay or throw them out of their home.
No. Nobody should be attacked physically or, I don't even think, with words or anything like that. You should be allowed to do what you want to do. That's now, there are the conservatives out there or Republicans out there who, yes, are they far right and they see a gay person holding hands, they'll start cussing or,
they want to electrocute them as well.
Yeah, stuff like that. Yeah,
I mean, your vice president wants to
electrotherapy.
Yeah, he believes in that. He also believes that he can use his religion to basically use bias towards you on if you're a person that happens to be gay. So
I got to see the evidence on that, because
I mean, that's what he says.
I mean, I got to see, because Mike Pence, they say a lot of things about Mike Pence, but Mike Pence is just governing as I've seen him doing. He hasn't done anything extreme. He hasn't attacked any groups. So that's what I'm trying to say. Like, before Trump was elected, his vice president and Trump were supposed to do so much crazy stuff, and it's not happening. And it's like, give the guy credit then. It's like
the reason why it's not happening is because it couldn't happen. It can happen. Mike Pence, first of all, he won't be able to. Now, if he's president, it's a different story. But right now, he has to go. Like, Trump is not going to jump into that boiling water. He's not doing that. He's not going against. He might be going against the trans people, but he's not going against the the whole LGBT. He's not taking on that.
Of course he wouldn't. He has no problem with LGBT. Trump was a celebrity before this. People forget he was in Hollywood. He was with the LGBT community. He was with the black community. He was with all these communities, and all of a sudden he ran against Hillary.
Which is why I think he's a fraud.
Yeah. What does Trump really think? We don't even know if Trump is we don't know his religion. We don't know what religion he is. We don't know if he believes in God.
I think he's faking the whole thing. I actually don't think Trump.
Tell me, Maxine.
That will give him a nicer light. But I actually think he's faking the entire thing, and I just think he realized
so he must be a really smart guy to do that.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
He's a con artist. It's easy. When you're a con artist, you can do that. I think con artists will sell you a bad car, and you're like, damn, how did they get it over on me? Well, they're con artists.
That's why, and I hate saying this, but I don't even know if Trump's against gay people. I don't know if he's racist. I felt like he just is an old white man, ignorant in that social stance. But I think he is faking the entire thing. He realized he could prey on ignorance and get and use this base, and I think it worked for him, and he's just gonna ride it out until because come on,
you're
man,
absolutely
born
right.
and raised in New York City. I know he's an old white man, and they are very flawed when it comes to knowing the sensitivities of diverse groups, but the man was surrounded by people of color for a long time. I know that they tie him. He's said a lot of things. You can go back to the
Jennifer Hudson,
Park 5,
Central Park 5.
Right. So there's things in his history he's done that
the media
that was him. He put
media lied though. The media lied about what really happened to those kids.
Hold on.
The point I'm trying to get is I think his ideology and where he stands is really no different than a typical northeastern old white man. I don't think he's, you know what I'm saying, but he became this mascot for these ideologies because it worked and he ride it out. I just think that he's just a whole hoax. This whole thing.
I agree with it.
And I think it got him where he is, and he's I don't even think he believed it was I think he's surprised at his own success. And
wow, this really works.
And it worked, and he's there, and he has to keep it going.
Yeah, I mean, what did you say about the Central Park 5?
I said the initial story about what happened at incident, NYPD, review the NYPD, and combined with the media, put the false story out there. It wasn't fully 100%. They should have done the research or whatever needed to be done first before they released that story. But once it was released, Trump just went off the story. And a lot of people went off the story, not just Trump. A lot of people in New York went off the story. And the story was wrong.
Yeah.
So,
well, you do also know that the police, you do see the problem with the police in the black community, right? You do understand that there's a lot, in all of the history of policing, they've never been that fair to people of color, and you do know that they coerce the kids into giving basically say that they had committed the crime and they hadn't done it, and they weren't able to. That story is going to they have a documentary that's going to come out, and I'm so excited about it that I really encourage people to watch it, because what happened to those kids and what ends up happening to a lot of black juveniles and adults is
I've been profiled before.
What's that?
I've been profiled before.
Have you?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm trying to say. Is that these black men get profiled. Black men get profiled all the time. And then what Trump did, which is worse, being a very a big person in New York City. He was very a public person, and he went and got a news article and put it on the front page saying, lock these wolves up, and said horrible things about them. And that just perpetuated the story, right?
And that's what happened.
And then when it was over, he didn't say, "Oh, when they found out that these kids really didn't do it," we didn't hear Trump apologize.
It wasn't his fault.
No, but did you hear what I said about that?
I know exactly what you said.
You just said you were profiled. It's weird when I hear conservatives say, "Yeah, that happened to me," but it's not wrong. You don't see.
No,
I
had out-of-state tags in a high drug traffic area in Georgia, and they black male driving the car. They get that all the time. That usually is, hey, I got something here. And when they meet me, of course, obviously they didn't, and they let me go. They talked my head off, but eventually they had to let me go, and that's the thing. But I didn't act aggressive. I didn't. But man, get the F out of here, man. Do, man. What y'all always trying to make the black man? I didn't do none of that, because my fathers taught me when you're dealing with the police, how to carry yourself. And that's what I did. And it's just, it's what you got to look at on their end too. If I was a cop, and that's why I'm not a cop, because if I was a cop, I'll be profiling if I was out there, because I'd be like, I got a long day. Let me just go get this guy. I know this kid doing something. Boom.
You said you would.
But
it's a possibility.
The key word you just said, you had your father. Some of these kids don't have their father.
I agree.
And by not having that, and then dealing with a lot of the stress that goes on in the environment, plus obviously media feeding the negativity, constant seeing the shootings, and then you got family members bringing that like negative. It's the same way how like people who live in the middle of Wisconsin, not saying anybody lives in Wisconsin, but they might have family members or things that they talk down against black people, just like people in black communities talk down against white people. So it's like when these interactions happen, some of these kids don't know how to handle it or how to be calm or relaxed or reserved. Like that's not something that their environment even teaches them, just because naturally it's like, oh, if you get bullied, you got your mother saying if you get picked on, you better stand up for yourself. So it's like this notion of when to or when and when not to is what the difference that you said you had somebody who told you that. Yes. Like just think about not having that.
I do think about that. And that's why I looked at the root, like why aren't these kids having fathers? And when you do that, you look at the Democratic Party pops up. And it's like, you're the reason why there's no fathers in the household.
My Lord.
Because what you guys destroying the family unit, pushing the welfare system in the black community.
My Lord. They're not pushing it. They're just trying to help people who need help. That's all they're trying to do.
Lyndon Johnson.
Republican wants it. So you think we should just go do away with the welfare system? Is that what you're saying?
I think we should have vetting, a strong vetting system for welfare. Very strong.
That's fine.
Because I knew a lot of dudes just chilling on the couch, smoking blunts, getting welfare money. And it's like, why are you, a young, healthy male,
so I know a lot of
not working?
White,
no excuse
blonde women who do the same thing and live in Kentucky, and it goes both ways.
I'm not saying we're talking about the black community, though.
No, we are, but this is the thing, Chris, and I think because you speak for the conservatives, you have to start to see this as it's bias against the black people. Like, it always ends up black people are the ones that hurt the most. Do you understand?
Oh, yeah. But it's a way to protect yourself from that.
How?
Having a family, having a father and a mother in the house.
So explain to me how someone living in the projects who doesn't have his father is in jail, his mother is working 2 jobs to try to pay for them, to try to get out of it, and she's got 3 kids. How are they supposed to live with a salary of maybe $20,000 and she's not able to handle the kids that she needs a little bit of government assistance? What is she not? What's wrong with that?
And I'm saying and when you do a vetting process, she will get a welfare check. That's nothing wrong with that. But the dude next to him, Tyrone, on the couch smoking blunts all day long, just crashed, not doing nothing, getting that, he doesn't deserve a dime.
I agree. I'm not saying that. Again, and a lot of Democrats, I don't think Democrats want to keep enriching Tyrone. What they want to do is just make sure that the moms that basically need this service can have this service. That's all it is.
I know, and that's what I'm saying.
And you can't be mad that people are abusing a system. Like, that's life. People abuse everything.
There's a lot of people abusing
the system. I mean, we talked about this already, and how I feel. Y'all know how I feel about this. The system needs to be overhauled completely. Mm-hmm. And
you said overhauled?
The welfare system needs to be reformed.
I agree.
Like, it's not working.
It's not.
But I see it from a different perspective. I empathize in the fact that it's, like I said, I think it's incentivizing poverty, and it's disadvantaging people of color intentionally, right? And I think that needs to be addressed. And so when we talk about the candidates and whatever and their platforms, like, I want to see that in there.
Okay.
I want them to talk about what they're going to do about it, because we can't just keep... I feel like Democrats feel like if we touch welfare, it's like oh my God, like, why are they touching... our base? Yeah, like, why are we touching welfare? And it's like,
black people need welfare.
Touching welfare is not meaning you're going to take it away. I mean, you might for some people, but it needs to be totally revamped.
I mean, I'm not mad at you saying it needs to be reformed, but I don't think that I think that there's a need for it. So we have to figure out what's the best way to help the people that need it.
I agree.
That's basically it. So, okay, speaking of need, let's go into Bernie Sanders. So he recently he had an interview where he basically admitted to being a millionaire. This is funny because this is Bernie Sanders, you know. So he's against like the 1% and millionaires and all that.
I've been saying this about Bernie.
Right. So, do you feel like this is going to hurt his candidacy with his base? Do you think they're going to turn on him because like he's like leading in the polls right now?
No. Bernie Sanders is the untouchable old white guy. I don't know what it is. It's the Democrats, everything old and white. Democrats like want to attack it, but Bernie Sanders sneaks on by and just keeps on. I'm like, I'm watching. I'm like, how's this guy even running? But they love him, and I'm like, okay, I'll let y'all love this guy, man. But he's a millionaire. He's a admitted socialist.
Do you know one thing I noticed? And I was just talking about this at work yesterday or the day before. I think he's gonna stop saying how millionaires are bad. Like, you know how he used to say that in his speeches? He's like, millionaires, and I don't think he says it anymore. I think he says I have to pay attention, but I think he's taking that term out there.
Right.
But I personally
They probably told him to. They're like, dude, they're going to use this against you.
Yeah, because that's in 2016, the term millionaires was like the ugliest, dirtiest term, and he would say it all the time. So I think now he can't. If you actually look at when he made his money, it was really 2017 and 2018. So like he got all this fame from 2016, and then he did like some book sales or whatever and royalties, and I think he just in like royalties alone, like he made like $1 million each year in 2017 and 2018. I know this because we're doing that analysis of all the candidates, but I don't think he's going to lose his base at all. Okay. Bernie Sanders' base is very similar to like Nicki Minaj fans, like the Barbs, like like the very cult following, yeah. And I don't think it's gonna I don't think it's gonna go anywhere at all. But I also think it's because Bernie is also so progressive and so left, and that resonates with a lot of young people in particular. So
they don't mind that he's a millionaire.
They don't mind that he's a millionaire. They don't mind that he's an old white man. They just care about his policies,
progressive policies,
right? And where he stands on the issues.
So do you? So this is the second part of my question. How do you feel about your public servants becoming wealthy while in public office? How do you feel about that?
I think there should be term limits for that exact reason. You shouldn't be becoming wealthy in your office, because if you let money control, it's going to eventually control you eventually, and you're going to start doing policies for the money in your own pocket instead of for the people. And that's what Democrats, to me, are very well known for. Bernie Sanders is a perfect example. Hate him or love him, Obama did the same thing. It goes on and on and on, and I think that's a problem.
Well, Obama's that's a president. That's a different story. You can't put Obama in that. A president obviously is going to become wealthy. Remember,
he's senator first, though. Yeah,
but even when he wrote books, he wrote really good books. He wrote really good books. He was running for president. He became a millionaire. That makes sense. There's nothing with that. You can't be mad. Everything is, he paid for everything that he was supposed to. He did everything by the book. Give him that at least. You can't say.
But you're making a million. Trump was a billionaire before he became president.
Right.
Give the man credit for that.
I understand that. But what I'm saying is, like, Obama didn't become a millionaire from being the senator of Illinois. In Illinois, that's not how he became a millionaire. Now Bernie is a different story. Bernie's been collecting a check from his constituents for what, 20 plus years he's been in Vermont, like, right? So but you just said he became rich after the election. So again that still kind of coincides with what we were talking about Obama. So I'm not in favor of our mayors and our political officials becoming wealthy while on the job and writing books and doing all that stuff and basically using their platform. It's almost like you working for the bank that you work for, and you're able to become wealthy from being at the bank. It's kind of wrong, right?
Or it's a capitalist society, man.
Thank you.
That's the unfortunately and fortunately, it's like that's what capitalism is. It's like,
but that's
snooze,
why
you lose.
I kind of agree with Chris. We just need term limits to just address that.
That term limits will help address that.
After that, they can do whatever they want. If they're writing books and getting famous, off of it and whatever. You can't do anything about that as a public servant. Like, people attack Hillary Clinton when she would do like her speeches and stuff. She hasn't been in office, and you're mad at her because she's going to get $500,000. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
she's worth $500,000.
So like, there's that aspect of it. But like, if you're talking about while you were in office, you amassed this significant amount of money, which means you could have been using public funds to help advance your efforts or whatever it may be. Like, how do we know you weren't flying all over the place for your own benefit?
Nancy Pelosi.
So
I love Nancy. Leave Nancy alone.
So I think that's a problem, and it can just be addressed with term limits.
Okay. So you do, but you guys we can all agree that could be that's a problem. Like, we don't want them to make money. But there is a nuance. It's a nuanced kind of question, because
but what are they doing if they're getting stuff done and they're being effective and they're addressing change? Like, I don't know.
I think you get good money just from being in government. You get a very nice paycheck for being in government, from being a senator, a governor, a mayor.
Bush made a lot of money Actually, Bush, if I'm
The
not
whole
mistaken,
business got Bush's money.
What's that?
The oil business.
Yeah, but also I think Bush also increased the salary of the president, like while he was in while he was
I think he could have done that. I know they used to make $300,000 a year.
Yeah, he made it like I think 800 or
I think it's 800, around 500 to 800 around that.
But also, when you come in wealthy, you also want to ask, like, okay, so what are their policies doing to help them safeguard their wealth or like increase their wealth? So, and I think that's why a lot of people look at the Republican side and how much money they make, because normally when they come in, they're trying to cut taxes. Well, obviously you want to do that to help your own self out. So if you're coming in wealthy, it's just as skeptical as like, someone who isn't, because you're like, okay, what are you trying to do for your own self here? Right. Which is what a lot of people think about when they talk about Trump.
Well, President Trump gives his whole salary, his yearly salary, he gives away to veterans in the country. So he doesn't get a dime from the government. First president.
He's a billionaire, isn't he?
Multi-billionaire.
Or is he? Okay.
We don't know. I've never seen his tax.
He doesn't need the 400K. He doesn't need the 400K.
We haven't seen his tax forms, so we're still waiting to see.
You don't need to. It's not by law. As a president, you got to show your tax forms. Birth certificate, yes.
Oh God, you must have studied the manual. There's a manual for conservatives. It's like the same stuff. They all repeat the same thing. Okay, so that's interesting. But what do you think about? This brings me to another question. What do you think about that, though? Because you made a good point, Maxine. You're saying that if a public servant gets rich while on the job, or if they're rich and they come to the job and then they're trying to enact laws that can be beneficial to them and their friends, what about the fact of a poor person like a AOC who admits to being, having two jobs, being a waitress / bartender, and then working another job to make ends meet? Is it fair? She's also going to enact things to help her and people like her. So isn't that kind of the same thing?
She's already kind of doing suspect things too. With her money, but let's not go there right
Maxine, what do you think? What do you think about that? Isn't that the same thing? It's just on the poor side. Like if I'm doing stuff to help people, like
but how does she personally benefit from that? Only her constituents. Like what do you mean by that? Like more resources, more free programs, like. How does she personally benefit?
I guess I'm just saying it's the same kind of mentality, right? I'm just thinking so.
But no, because one, you're acting on behalf of yourself, and the other, you're acting on behalf of your constituents, which is what we elected you for.
Exactly, and she just built her campaign, her building in the Bronx. She built ours in Manhattan, but it's supposed to be, her district is the Bronx.
And Queens.
Yeah, so she just built her building like a week ago after people criticized her and like, why aren't you in New York? Aren't you representing us? And she's, oh yeah.
What do you mean? She lives somewhere else? What do you mean?
Yeah, she lives in D.C. That's where she lives.
You're supposed to.
Yeah, I know, but you're supposed to have a building here when you come here and to work out of, and have your constituents work out of.
When she comes here, she's in Manhattan.
No, well, she has a building in Manhattan that she just recently built, but she didn't have a building at all. You're supposed to have a building just from the day one, so you have your constituents working out of it while you're not there. When you come here, you work out of it with your constituents.
I love what she does. I think she also has this she has not this program, but she has all her employees make a salary of $50,000 or better, and I think that's so. She says, "How can I employ people that can't make a living wage that they can feed their family?"
But how is she able to do that?
I guarantee you. Exactly.
Like, where's the money cut? Like, how she
Hello?
just...
Hello? That's a good point. That's a really good point.
To just be like, okay, everyone's salaries are up.
You're the auditor. Let's. That's a good question. That's a really good question. Think about that.
Y'all could have did that and you didn't.
Exactly. That's what. Isn't that like? To me, I think those are like.
But that's why I think. That's why I think a lot of people, especially in the Black community, are skeptical of politicians. They don't trust them. They're like, everyone's in there for themselves. It's a self-interest thing, and I think you're always going to have that feeling.
Not always. President Trump, he like I said, he doesn't touch our money. So.
A lot of people are always going to be having eyes raised, like, what is my politician getting out of this? So that's why I think what we need as a community, we need to keep pushing for transparency, whatever that form may be, and accountability, to really be on top of them, of what they're doing. What are you getting out of this? What is your stake in it? And all that kind of stuff. Like, that's what we gotta do,
Yeah, we need. Yeah, that's a good point. So my next and final topic I have for today. Yeah, today's a short one. So everybody's talking about marijuana, right? Legalizing marijuana, and this is a topic that, in the last few elections, it's been raising. And the question I have, if marijuana, were to become legal across America, how does it benefit people of color, like people like us?
Small business owners. Trump already has tariffs that are helping small business owners, but this, I feel, was already, because the reason I'm saying
that are helping.
But he's not for legalization, is he?
No.
He hasn't really come out and said yay or nay. I think he's going to attack that in his second term once he's reelected.
Right.
But
right.
But with just me personally, I've already talking to people here in New York.
What is your take on marijuana? Do you think it should be legalized?
I think it should be a choice by state. I think it should be local, not federal.
100% for legalization.
100%?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Legalization and decriminalization as well, which means that people who were previously... Okay, so I was doing some research, and basically... Well, we already know was Colorado the first state that did it?
Yes.
They had a surplus, within a year or two, something like that. And the fact that the governor was giving money back to people because they made so much money from revenues
Of course.
But all the data has shown that
crime is down.
Well, and then just the prohibitions against marijuana hasn't curbed marijuana use, and there's just most of the arrests, I think it said 90% of the arrests are possession. It wasn't even violent crimes or anything of that sort. And so the amount of revenue that is going to be generated in general, but most of those people in jail are people of color, so of course it's going to benefit them because they're the ones getting arrested. In fact, it showed that black men and white men, even when you control for the use of marijuana being the same, the black man is 3.7 times more likely to get arrested than the white man. So obviously prohibitions against marijuana has been disadvantaging people of color. So, and it's from a politician standpoint, my state's going to make more money from crime is going to go down, right? Mm-hmm. When it comes to marijuana arrests and all that kind of stuff. So to me, I don't know what the case is against it.
Yeah, it was made illegal in the first place from when they had Mexican workers here in the early 40s just doing a lot of physical manual labor here, and when they were pretty much done with a lot of building, they wanted to get rid of them, so they knew a lot of them smoked marijuana, so they made it illegal to get rid of them. Same thing they did with Chinese with heroin, by the way, as well. But yeah, so I personally, now, do I feel as a president kind of looking at it? Mm-hmm. Me personally, I think marijuana should be legal.
It should be illegal?
Legal.
Oh, legal.
Legalized.
Okay.
Because, like I said, like she mentioned, when it comes to the people that could be decriminalized for those BS marijuana charges they have, and a lot of that was to do with the Clintons, by the way, with their 3-strike law that they brought into that. They criminalized more blacks than any previous administration in the history of America. And also, I think, like I said, I met even people here in New York who were, small business owners already in the industry, and they, grow from growers to, people, renting out space in the area. So I've seen a lot of people that are young, black males and females who are hungry in the business. And I feel that, not to say, blacks, smoke marijuana or deal with marijuana, but a lot of them have experience already in, these type of things. So why not let them do it legalized, and it'll benefit them and their family. So,
because you have to decriminalize as well.
Yeah, you have to decriminalize. That's a big part of it.
Yeah.
I agree with that as well.
You agree with that too.
Yeah, there's people in jail for just silly stuff.
Silly stuff.
Marijuana.
No, it's definitely, and I think that it's helpful for the economy. I mean, we can use some of that money for education. I feel like that's the money we need. You know what I mean? We're always looking for, okay, well, how can we get this new policy? How can we get, okay, here's a new way we can have some extra money in the in the city or in the state. You know?
And there was a study done, I can't remember the organization that did it, but it said that by legalizing marijuana, it's not going to increase teenager use. No. It's not going to increase, they were able to do studies and really show that it's not going to have this effect of now everyone's just getting high and you know what I mean. So
yeah, I think in Amsterdam, in Amsterdam they don't have a problem with violence. Their violence is down. Because everything is legal there. Drugs. Porn, prostitution, everything's legal there. And you'll be surprised that when people don't have restrictions, they don't act out. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like when you tell a kid, don't do this, or they go do it.
I guess I do. I guess one thing I do think about, okay, so what the drug dealer is going to sell?
I know.
Like that's the one thing I was thinking to myself. I'm like, are they gonna like move on to like cocaine and heroin and then try to get kids on that? Like I'm just saying because if you just took a product out of the drug dealers market, like what they gonna do? Are they gonna just be like, okay, now I'm gonna go to school, now I'm getting an education? Like I don't know what's gonna happen, but to me that would be my only like worry. You know what I mean? Well, then, like, what would be
that's outcome? A good. See, I was wondering if someone's gonna bring that up because that's a question that I was thinking, but I that's why I ask: is it helpful is it going to help Black people of color? Because what's happening is the people that are making the most money of it on legal marijuana, it seems to be Caucasians more. And like we talk about Colorado and California, they have the weed shops, they grow the weed plants, like they're making more money, and it's kind of unfair because they
didn't have like crazy like drug dealing problems, you know what I'm saying? Like to begin with, like the Midwest is not a really good framework to say, okay, this worked in Colorado, now how's that going to work in an inner city in New York, in New York City?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying, how is it fair? So what I'm saying is that there has to be some sort of pipeline for people of color, right? So if you're in jail for a crime that has to do with marijuana, it's a non-violent crime, you should be able to be the first person. Like there should be some kind of like loan program that helps you open up your shop. It sucks to like come out of jail for selling weed and then go into like, okay, now we're gonna let you sell weed because guess what? It's legal now. Welcome to America. It's like, come on, bro. You know what I mean? You think about that. This guy has spent 10, 20 years for.
But that's the thing. Like most people who are gonna capitalize on it are gonna be like smarter white people that have like their shop and like that's capitalism. They're already in the stocks. But that's not fair. They're already in the stocks. They're in the stocks and they are waiting on the sidelines for the state that is going to legalize, and then they're going to be popping up with their little shops with the mimosas
I got my stock
and the weed,
and the weed butter and stuff.
Yeah,
sometimes it's not also about just being smart. It's just that they're more financially equipped,
available resources
to be able to, because even when they legalize it, like it's so you have to spend so much money just being able to sell it that you're almost losing in the beginning, because a lot of these places don't even stay open long enough. Two, as far as the what happens to the drug dealers, some will still be around because the price is going to be cheaper, whereas you go to, like, I just came from LA, I went to a dispensary, the tax on it is ridiculous. Like the amount I can get more right now technically on the street than me going to a dispensary. But then again, the dispensary has much better quality.
Isn't that going to be legal?
They're taking less money though. They're taking a cut.
Who's taking a cut?
The drug dealers who stay in weed.
Well,
but they were making their money already.
They were already making their money already. And what I'm trying to say is that if they do,
but they have to lower their price.
They have no. It's going to be lower because it's not going to be taxed. Once they legalize it and they put it in the stores, it's going to have the tax on it.
It's going to tax on it, and the tax is like it's 40.
It's up there.
It's up there. It's like woo. But then again, at the dispensary,
so you're saying the store, the price was consistent with what you would have got in the street plus tax. That's how it was?
Yes.
The store they add tax.
The store they're adding tax, but the taxes.
No, I know, but I wasn't sure if the initial price was consistent with what you got on the street.
Yeah, and it's the same.
Obviously, I don't smoke weed.
It's the same.
Me either.
It's the same with the type of quality. Like certain things you might get more, but the quality might not be that great. Then you get other things where the quality is very potent, and you're not getting that much, but you're getting a potent. That's what
it's going to take less to get to the point.
Exactly, and that's what dispensaries provide.
What were you saying about the regular drug dealer? What's going to happen to him?
So they're still going to thrive in some way, because now the only thing I don't know about if it becomes legal, is it illegal for the drug dealer now? That's the thing, because a friend of mine is in Toronto.
Like you have to do it in the store in a certain way.
Yeah, so now it like makes it's like, okay, it's legal to sell it, but now you cut out.
Well, how was it with the Prohibition era? Does anybody know? Like when we couldn't like drink alcohol, like and people were making it,
but it was outlawed.
It was outlawed. If you caught moonshining, like you were going to jail.
They outlawed alcohol completely. It wasn't legal in stores.
Now, rich people, of course, were drinking still at parties and stuff like in Hollywood. They were still sipping on their. They're going to find a way to get the drink on.
Yeah.
The only thing that I think that what makes the dispensaries thrive versus the to answer your question about drug dealers, a friend of mine in Toronto, he was explaining that the drug dealers still are out, but it's that you just get it at a cheaper cost, you know what I mean? But then again, you're not getting that variety. Like liquor stores, you walk into, it's like, okay, you got whiskeys, you got vodkas, you got this. When you walk into a dispensary, it almost feels like you're walking into like a store catered to you. They're like, okay, where do you want to feel? Do you want to feel like this? And do you want this? Do you want sativa? Are you? They like ask you questions like, are you an editor? What do you do for work? Like,
oh wow,
it's it's a great, it's an experience, So I mean,
I just hope that people of color still find ways to monetize on this, because when you think about it, for you to go to jail for that exact thing that is now legal and you're not able to make money from it, it kind of is, to me, like, it's really, really unfair.
Yeah, I agree. But I feel I think blacks are this is a business that blacks are going to get in their hands into and involved in.
Well, stocks. Start with this, invest in the stocks. That's the first thing.
That's what I'm doing,
Yeah, invest in the
Robin Hood. Get the Robin Hood app.
Yep. I got the Robin Hood app.
That's what I'm saying. I wonder how it would. Do we have a state now that we can model? Because I know Colorado's not like a good example. I mean, there's not a lot of people of color out there. I would love to see a state with predominantly.
I think LA, we're in Los Angeles, it's legal there. That's a great city.
But I'm saying to see if that ended up happening. If you actually saw people of color benefiting and having shops and making money.
Oh no, I mean it's always the clever liberal. It's always the clever white liberal that kind of wins, unfortunately. You know what I mean? Like, because that's who they like Ty said, they're the ones that have it's opportunity. That when you have the opportunity meets preparation, you're able to pounce when you have
financially equipped is what I'm trying
that's
to
what you
say.
said.
You're able to pay all of those legal fees, and it's serious. Like, you can't just get that's why in LA there's a lot of gray there's a lot of markets that are gray. Like, you go to a certain dispensaries, you're like, this doesn't seem like the dispensary, but it has this like shady-ish feel. And then there's other ones where you walk in where just like the awning is like out and just like, hey, I'm a dispensary. The other ones are like, all right, here's this door over here, and you walk in, and so it's a lot of gray market areas.
But let's see if how their economy works. Let's see if it's helping people of color and education.
Yeah, I think what white people would benefit for is not white privilege; it's generational wealth privilege. They have grandparents who are rich, great grandparents who are rich. I had white friends who would, their birthday come around, they got $300 for their birthday, and I got my age in money, and I'm like, what the heck? But then like, oh yeah, my great grandfather freaking was the owner of Coke or whatever. I'm like, okay, yeah, that's where you get your money from, I guess. And so they teach their grands.
Well, they had a head start. I mean, that's the thing. That's why we talked about reparations and everything. Like, it's never been an even playing field, right? So
but see, like, to me, like the reparations thing, like, and I was saying that's not a real thing, but like you were saying here, these people come out of jail, they were disadvantaged. Like, can we get them some kind of like one-step program where it's like you can start a dispensary and you get whatever, a grant or something of that sort. That's an example of something like that can take place. Right. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like a form of reparation in a sense.
I mean, we talked about this last night, the reparation, the school. Weren't you talking about that?
Yeah,
the school in Georgia that is looking to offer a reparation,
free tuition.
Yeah, I mean, even though Georgia already offers, like Georgia State, I think they offer free tuition for like if you make like a certain grade point average, like for everyone. But I mean, I think like because we talked about this heavily the last episode, and how we feel like reparation is just kind of another way to kind of
pander.
Yeah, to the people of color, because there's really, when we really break it down, how can they do it? However, we are going to have, I'm going to end this here. We are having a really comprehensive breakdown on the candidates. Maxine and I will be covering all 18. Hopefully there's no more, because that's a lot of candidates for us to cover. And you're going to be covering your leader-in-chief and letting us know his achievements yes. in quotations. Yes. Please.
It's going to be a long episode of you guys already.
Yeah, it's good. We're going to have to figure out how we're going to break that down. But that's happening in a few episodes. So give us some time to do that. We're working. It's a lot of research. We want to like make sure we give the audience like a really good just a breakdown, and especially before their debate, we want you to be equipped with some knowledge of what their platform is. Because everyone's like, what's their platform? Why am I voting for this person? I'm not going to just vote for someone because they're a woman or they're black or they're this or they're that. Good. So let's talk about what they want to
No identity politics. Don't do it.
Some interesting stuff already happening in my review.
Okay.
To date.
Identity politics, really quick. How many presidents have been of color in America? 1. Okay. So who's doing the identity politics? Who's done it for 45 presidents? 44. There's out of 45 presidents, only one person of color has been a president. So who do you think who can we blame for identity politics? Guys, pay attention. Don't fall for the trap. Okay. And we're going to end it today. Thank you so much for listening. Subscribe to our SoundCloud. It's going to be available on all platforms. We're starting a YouTube page. When we do that comprehensive breakdown of all the candidates, we're going to also have video coverage, so you're going to see us. So again, thank you so much for listening. Maxine and Chris, if you have anything to say.
Trump 2020.
Follow us on Instagram. We're Politrix podcast on Instagram. Follow Maxine.
Maxine.Outerbridge.
And
phone. Conservative _IN_NY for my Instagram. Same thing for my YouTube without the underscores. Conservative.
Yeah. And I'm Kerstyn, KERSTYNJ on Instagram. Follow us. Thank you so much, guys. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Okay. Adios.